Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Teacher Talks. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Holmes. Thank you guys so much for joining. Come on in, get in the chat, tell me where you're watching from, and we are going to get started in just a couple of minutes. I'm excited about tonight's topic. We are talking about the five socio-emotional factors that impact student motivation. So if you're on YouTube or Facebook, if you read down at the bottom of the screen, you can read the description and you can kind of get a sense of where I got this whole topic from. It's very prevalent. I hear about this all the time. I talk about it all the time. And so I thought it would be a great topic to bring to you guys so we can have a bigger conversation around the issue of student motivation and just kind of giving you a few tools that you could possibly use to maybe remedy some of these issues you're having with your students. So go ahead while you're here. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe and then share this. Share this on YouTube. Share this if you're on Facebook. Share this if you are on LinkedIn. Hello, hello, hello. I see people are already here. Good evening. Good evening. So go ahead, share it out right now. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Don't go away. Now, you all let me go through a whole spiel, and nobody told me that I was muted. So guess what? I got to start over. I got to start over. Guess what? Class is officially in session. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Teacher Talks. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Holmes. This is my classroom, and this is just a place where one teacher just loves to talk. And so we are going to share some great information today. Tonight, we're talking about the one, two, three, four, five socio-emotional factors that impact student motivation. If you're on YouTube, you have the great opportunity to bless me. How can you bless me? Bless me by simply subscribing to this channel. We are on the road to 1,000, and I would love for you to help me out by getting there one step at a time, one person at a time, one click at a time. While you are subscribing, why not go ahead and like? While you're liking, go ahead and share. This is a topic that is not just relevant to teachers and teacher leaders, principals, district leaders, but also parents. I know you guys are probably experiencing some issues with motivation with your kids at home. So I want you to also watch. And then if you're on Facebook, you can watch, you can get in the comments. That's what I want you to do. You guys drive the conversation. But if you're on Facebook, get your butt on over there to YouTube and make sure you subscribe to the channel. And for those of you that are watching on LinkedIn, thank you for watching. But YouTube, get over there. Get over there to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, help me get to 1,000 subscribers. It's free. It's not going to hurt you. I promise you. There won't be random emails. There won't be random phone calls, text messages, none of that. Just subscribe. And then if you want to make sure you don't miss, always click the notification bell because it's going to give you an alert every time I come on live. God, I got some people on here already. Again, if you're in the chat, give me a shout out. Tell me where you're watching from. If you're watching from Kalamazoo, if you're watching from Alaska, if you're watching from Canada, if you're watching from the Ivory Coast, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, my people. It's Black History Month. I'm loving it. So I would love for my people to show me some love. Oh, Catherine said, I thought it was just my phone. No, it wasn't your phone, Catherine, and you didn't even let me know that I was muted, but it's okay. I still love you. That's family right there. Go Bears, the Black Bear to be specific. Now, as you can see, I am drinking out of my trusty Teacher Talks mug. Isn't that fancy, y'all? That is fancy. And you can see I've even dropped a little logo down here for y'all. I'm really trying to step my game up. I'm working on some official background music or intro music I can play because, of course, everything has to be paid for. Like you have to like tag everything. So what I'm doing right now, it's not free, but I put it in my description. So if you're in Georgia, it is raining cats and dogs outside. Some of y'all are dealing with snow. We're dealing with rain. So I'm drinking some tea tonight out of my Teacher Talks mug. Come on. Look at that. Look at that. Teacher Talks. Gotta love it. So again, thank you guys who are in the chat already. I appreciate you. Again, let me know where you're watching from. So let's start here. I have been out and about working in schools. This week has been a little slow. I've been really working from home this week, but it hasn't been any less busy. And have done some advocacy work this week, which is work I really, really love. But it's also a little bit sad when I do advocacy work, depending on the situation. God, everybody knows I love teachers, right? I love schools. I love what they do. I honor their work. But sometimes we don't get it right. And if you don't get it right, one of the biggest things you can do is be transparent, take ownership of your mistakes or the things you didn't do to the best of your ability, and try to make a change. That's all you can really do. Try to do it better because we can't go back. We can't change the past, but we can move forward and do things better. So there are some issues I'm working with right now with some people, and schools did not get it quite right. But I'm believing and hoping, and a little bit of prayer that things are going to get better. So just guys, just focus on doing the right thing. That's the biggest thing. So as we talk about those 5 socio emotional factors that impact student motivation, I'm going to drop in the chat the acronym we're going to be working with tonight. And this is going to, of course, give you the 5 things that I'm going to be discussing. And then you're also going to be discussing with me as well. You're going to make sure you get involved in the conversation. So the acronym is REACH. This is where we're going to have our conversation tonight. So let's deal with the first letter, which is R. Who thinks they know what the first letter in the factor that impacts socio-emotional impact of students? What do you think that R is? What's the first thing we need to deal with in order to build students up, to get them motivated to learn, motivated to work? Remember, I was about to say we've been in a pandemic. We are in a pandemic, right? So imagine the things that kids have gone through in terms of shifting from what they are used to doing, not just in the school setting, but also in the community, at home, with family and friends. So it's not the same. So what do you think the first letter or the first factor is? It starts with an R. I'm giving it to you. So we're dealing with the acronym REACH. And I'm going to put it in the chat, also in Facebook. What What do you think that R is? I'm going to give it to you. Number one, relationships. That should be a no-brainer, right? If you want to motivate a child to do anything, parents, teachers, leaders, guardians, any mentors, if you want to get a student to do anything and lead them to some internal independent motivation, the first thing you have to have is a relationship, a productive relationship, a meaningful relationship. That is the source of everything. It is how you get things going. It's how you get students motivated. It's how you get students to believe in themselves. It's how you get students to do things that you want them to do. Is by building one, the relationship. So let's talk about the relationship. It is the single most important factor that educators can do to increase the motivation of a student. Building those close connections built around trust. Now, why do I say that? Because oftentimes we get stuck in this pattern where our students become our friends. We don't need another friend. And trust me, your kids don't need another friend. They need a trusting adult that they can believe in, that they know can hold them accountable, that cares for them, and that is willing to lead and guide them in the right direction. That is what the relationship is all about. Now, for some of you all who are out there thinking your minds are in the gutter, we're not talking about anything sexual. We're talking about positive, impactful relationships. There is tons of research that talks about the relationship between students and teachers and how a positive relationship impacts the outcome for students. This data talks about the true development of those interactions where students are able to express and receive care. They're willing to be challenged and grow. They're willing to accept support and ask for support. They're willing to give up some of their power. We know these kids really are about power nowadays. They really want to be respected, but they're also willing to take a risk and expand their possibilities, do things that they're uncomfortable typically doing. So that is the first letter, R. We have to build relationships. If that's not an area you're strong in, or if you know you have some weak relationships with students, there's something I want you to think about. How can you go and build better relationships with the students that you serve? It's critically important. If there's no relationship, the level of learning that they receive, the level of interaction and engagement, the instruction itself hits a roadblock, right? It hits a roadblock. And let me say this, your students don't have to like you. That's not what I'm saying. This relationship is not built around the idea of liking. This idea is built around trust and respect. I have taught many of students, especially in the first 6 weeks, who did not care for me. Let's be honest. They didn't like me. They didn't like me. I'm a very strict teacher, very consistent in my practices. I'm a very clear communicator and have high expectations. For some kids, that is uncomfortable. And so for 6 weeks, we're getting to know each other. And what they realize is that my expectations don't lower. My consistency, it is what it is. It stays the same. I'm going to push you. I'm going to grow you. But I'm also building trust. You can trust me to say and do what I've said and committed to doing. So they don't have to like you. But you can still build a positive relationship even if they don't like you in the beginning. Give it time. Give it time. It will grow. And it will go from dislike, and these will be the kids that come and see you all the time. You can't get them from off of your own. Like, hey, go on somewhere. Don't you have a class to go to? Don't you have lunch to go to? Like, go do something. Get away from me. Why? Because they trust you, and you build a relationship where they know they can go to you, and you're going to be there, no matter what. So that's number one. Get yourself a trusting relationship. All right. The next letter in reach, I'm pulling you guys along here now. The first letter is R. R is for relationships, the next letter is E. And what do you think the E stands for? What do you think the E stands for? We're now in class. Come on, I need you to think. I need you to think. E. What do you think the E stands for? I am watching all of these chats. Oh, Catherine says empathy. That's a good guess. And you know what? In a time like now, what we're dealing with, that's a very good guess because it is something that many people, I don't want to say they don't have it, they don't express it. Maybe that's a better way of saying that. All right, another guess. So Catherine says empathy. That's a great guess. That is not the E in this particular. I think this E comes along somewhere else because you got to build a relationship first, get to know them. There's other things you got to do, and then you can be empathetic. But right now, in the beginning stages, I don't really know who they are, right? So I'm thinking about the things that I have to do with a group of kids I don't know well. I don't know well. Anybody else? I think empathy was a great guess. Let's go. Um, oh, I love this. Elevate. How do you motivate a student? You need to elevate them, take them to a higher level. I love that. I love the way you pull that out, Miss Jackson. Anybody else? Those are two great answers, not the E's that's attached to the research that I'm using tonight. Okay, let me just say this. This is not coming off the top of my head, right? So this information is coming from the Search Institute, um, and they do tons of research. This research is centered around SEL, which is social emotional learning. So that's SEL. I'm trying not to use a lot of jargon tonight. Um, okay, I love this. I love where you're going. She says educate. That's another great guess. But let me go ahead and give it to you. The second letter it or factor that we need to have in our toolkit as adults, and that includes teachers, principals, and parents. The second E that we have to have in our toolkit that I'm going to give to you is this: effort. Simple, plain, but it speaks to the idea of intentionality. You could be willing to build relationships, but the relationships will never form if you don't put forth effort. Effort. And that is important because when you're dealing with students that are not motivated, is it likely they're going to reach out and seek you? I'm not motivated. I'm in a bad space in my life, right? I'm not feeling well. I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling myself. So the idea that you think that students are going to reach out to you to motivate them is not going to happen. You have to be intentional and put forth the effort to motivate them. How do you put forth effort? Effort in what? Effort in showing them that you care. You put forth effort and you say something positive every day when they walk in. Hey, good morning. So glad to see you this morning. I'm so glad to see you today. I thought you were going to be absent today, but I'm glad that you decided to come. Man, I'm excited that you're here. We have so much learning to do today, and I'm glad you came. I didn't want you to miss out on it. Man, do you know how smart you really are? I mean, you really impress me sometimes. The things you say, the way you think, the way you carry yourself. You are a great, not just young man or young woman. You're a great student. You're a great thinker. You're a great learner. You're a great leader. You have so much potential. To say those positive things, it takes effort. All right. You have to be intentional. Adults need to help students believe that when they challenge themselves mentally, emotionally, psychologically, they use good learning. They use, I call it that good brain, right? Because when you don't do that, what do they often do? They seek to highlight their failures. They seek to highlight their mistakes. They seek to highlight all the things that they need to improve on, like they have no strengths. That is not the case. If you want to motivate a student that lacks motivation, then you have to put forth the effort. You've got to put forth the effort. And I trust and believe in the idea that if we do it, they will meet you not always halfway, but they will meet you somewhere, not in the middle, but 20%, 35%, 10% is better than the zero they were giving you before. All right. Somebody else. So R is for relationships. That's the first factor. We want to really build students up who are not motivated as we relate to their socio and emotional health. One, build relationships. Number two, if you're going to do it, you have to put forth the effort to do it. You have to be intentional in your practices and intentional in your beliefs about who they are and what they can do. Speak positivity into their life. Don't find the mistakes. Don't find the faults. Don't find the errors. Find the things that they do well, and you need to highlight those. That's how you build motivation. All right, we're moving along, people. We're doing pretty good on time here. I'm at 22 minutes. So if you're new, if you're on YouTube, stop what you're doing. Go and subscribe right now. Subscribe to the channel right now. Right now, we're talking about the 5 socio-emotional factors that impact student motivation. Number 1 is the letter R. And we said the first letter in the word reach that we're using is you need to build relationships. The second one is letter E. And the E in reach stands for effort. You have to put forth effort to support your students in increasing their motivation. Now, we are moving on to the third letter. The third letter in reach that we're going to deal with, which is our third factor to impact student motivation, is a letter A. I'm not giving it to you. You're here. You're bright. You're smart. Class is in session. Class is in session. So I am requiring you to be a part of my class. So what do you think that next letter is? It's letter A. What do we need to do in terms of increasing student motivation that starts with the letter A? What do you think it is? Drop it in the chat right now. Whatever you think that word is. We've covered relationships. We've covered effort. And now we're dealing with the letter A. What do you think that letter A is? It is the third socio-emotional factor to increase student motivation. I'm going to give you a few more seconds to drop it in the chat. And then I'll give it to you if you don't get it. Okay, I'll be nice. I will be nice. Thank you guys who are on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I see the comments. I really love it. I appreciate it. Now, the third factor, because some of you all, let's see, you're not there. Can you not think of it? Come on, stretch your brains, stretch your minds. Educators, parents. We've kind of talked about this, but we haven't used this word. And this word is aspiration. Ms. Jackson says accumulate. Well, we do want to accumulate knowledge through relationships. We want to accumulate learning and knowledge and motivation by putting forth effort. But we also want to increase motivation by ensuring that we have the appropriate aspirations. Now, aspiration is this whole belief that sheds this positive vision of themselves, and they see their actions in the present, and they see how they will affect their ability to realize whatever it is that they're dreaming to come true. We can improve both their academic and their socio-emotional outcomes by giving them aspirations. When I was young, one of the things my teachers always gave me was the aspiration I could do and achieve anything I wanted to. anything. There were no limits. They never put boundaries on me. They never put brakes on me. Now, did they always give me high quality instruction to make me successful in college and post secondary? Not always, but they did believe in me. I never lacked confidence in what I could do and who I could become. That was never an issue. That was never an issue. So we need to make sure students have aspirations, that they desire to do something in life at some point. They want to go somewhere. They want to achieve something. They believe that they can do it. And we give them those aspirations. That's kind of where we come in as adults. Again, not just as teachers and leaders, but also as parents. Even principals, don't leave yourselves out. You still have a direct connection, sometimes indirect connection with your students. And the way you speak, let's say, to a student body, you can speak life over them or you can speak death over a whole class in a matter of 5 minutes, in a matter of 10 seconds. It's all about what you say. The words that come out of your mouth have power. And kids may make mistakes, but you don't have to destroy them when they make a mistake. The mistake is just a measure of their possibilities. The mistake is a measure of their possibility. All we have to do is correct the mistake, and then the possibility expands. I'm going to type that because that was powerful. Mistakes are just measures of their possibilities. So if you fix the mistakes, then the possibilities expand. So that's what we have to focus on. Give them aspirations. Give them the opportunity to believe in themselves that they can do some things in life, in this world. They can make a difference. They can be the change. But we have to give them that. If they're not motivated, they automatically don't believe that they can do anything, including being a great student. They don't believe it. So we have to instill in them that they are capable. And one of the ways that we do that, again, is by the things that we say. Sometimes we have to just sometimes pour into people. And I know it's draining at times because when people are just really down on themselves, um, sometimes it really impacts you and you kind of beat up on yourself. But I think there's a way as an adult we navigate a whole lot differently than students. So the third factor is aspirations. So let's kind of review. We're talking about the 5 socio-emotional factors that impact student motivation, and we're using the acronym REACH. The first thing we need to do is build relationships with your students. Super, super important. If you build relationships, you're gonna have to also put in some effort. You've got to put in the effort because they're not motivated. They're not going to do it themselves. You have to put in effort to build them up, to get them motivated. Okay? It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time. So it's not going to happen overnight. Letter A, the third factor, is aspiration. You've got to help them believe in themselves. You have to help them believe that there are opportunities and possibilities out there beyond what they can um, imagine in their minds. It's beyond their imagination. It's beyond their beliefs. They have to think bigger, think beyond where they are, and think about what it is that they can really do in this life as students, as leaders, as change agents. All right. Moving to the fourth. We're almost there, guys. The fourth factor um, of socio-emotional learning that impacts a student's motivation. Now, what do we know? We know that the fourth letter starts, or the fourth word starts with the letter C. Now, I want you guys to think. Now we're educators now. Educators. So we have relationships, effort, aspiration. So we've done a lot with emotions at this point, right? Now, We're talking about scholars. So what do you think that fourth factor is? The fourth factor starts with the letter C. What are we trying to expand in them? What are we trying to develop? This is not a word we use all the time. I use it a lot in my work, but it's not a word we use just in common conversation. God, I love that, Miss Jackson. Now, listen, this word that she just said is included in this. It is a big part of this. It is the pathway to do what the fourth word is. But let me just pause here. Communication is everything. Communication impacts your relationship. Communication impacts your effort or the quality of the effort or the outcome of your effort on someone. The way you communicate can destroy or build or give birth to aspirations. Communication is the key in all of this. If there is a bubble, all of these five factors would probably be in the bubble. But outside that bubble, I will put the big word communication. It's everything in this world. It's everything in this world. Situations are created because there's poor communication or miscommunication. Okay? Everything is centered around how we discuss, how we talk, how we share with each other. So that is a great guess. I love that guess. You kind of got me excited, right? Let me calm down. Let me drink some more of this tea. I got a little passionate about that word communication. It took me out almost. Let me calm down. Somebody else, give me another word that you think is the fourth factor for socio-emotional learning that impacts student motivation. But communication, man, that is so critical. It is a foundation of it. It's a frame of what we're talking about. It really is. Credibility. Oh man, y'all, man, that's another big one. That's another big one. So here's the issue. If we're talking about school climate or culture, or we're talking about your home environment, right? If you have poor communication in your home or in school, it will destroy the environment, correct? The other part of it is people just aren't credible. Credibility is entangled with the word, there's another C word, character. What you do when people are not looking, right? So credibility, do you know what you know and can you make a difference? And so we have people in schools who are not credible. They can't get it done. They don't have the skills. We've got parents that aren't credible. They don't have the background to do the work, to do the job. And then in many cases, well, let me be more positive, right? Let me think more glass half full. In some cases, they lack character because when the lights are on and people are watching, they do what needs to be done. But when the doors close and the lights are off, they're inconsistent in their practice, right? They don't do what they say they're going to do. You can't trust them. All right. So these are great words. The word care, you have to care. Care is going to kind of flow into a relationship because if you build a relationship, you have to care or you should care, right? So if we think about education, the word that I'm going to give you as it relates to building students' motivation is they also need to believe in their mental capacity, right? Or the mental capabilities. So the fourth factor is the word cognition. Cognition. And so when we teach students to think about their own thinking, it strengthens their ability to manage learning and control impulses and be able to process information in a way that strengthens their brain capacity. Those skills, when you build cognition, what do they result in? They result in students being able to achieve and master tasks and achieve their goals, right? One, because they believe. They do believe. But two, we've given them the tools, we've stretched their brains, right? Now, cognition is not something, it's not one of these things you're going to do initially, which is why it's not at the very beginning, right? You see relationships, effort, aspiration, and then we get into cognition. You can't stretch a child who doesn't trust you that you don't have a relationship with, okay? You can't stretch a child that you don't have a relationship. Parents, you cannot discipline a child that you don't have a relationship with, which is it's Black History Month, so let's do it. Back in the day, I could get disciplined by anybody, anybody in my neighborhood, anybody in my church. Why? We had a relationship. Communities of faith, communities in terms of neighborhoods are not what they used to be. So you cannot go and just say something to somebody's child that you don't know. There is no relationship. The child could be wrong altogether, needs to be disciplined, needs to be reprimanded. But guess what? You can't do it because you don't have a relationship. You can't tell a child you're going to make an AMI class even though you failed the last 2 years of math. Why? They don't trust you. You guys don't have a relationship. Relationships are important. Two, if there's a relationship, you're not going to put forth the effort. And then you really don't have any aspirations about kids. Why? Because you don't know them. How do you know where somebody can go and what they can do when you don't know them? So you cannot stretch those aspirations. Therefore, you don't know how far you can stretch them mentally in terms of cognition. That's our number four, right? You can't stretch their minds because you don't even know where their minds are because you haven't done the first three. So that's why this is number four, giving them the ability to believe in their own brain capacity, their own brain capabilities, and building that cognition through confident stretching them, growing them so they can complete tasks with mastery. That should show up in their grades. And then they're also able to achieve their goals as they continue to set them. Okay. So we're almost there. So we've dealt with the first four factors of socio-emotional learning that impacts student motivation. So R, relationship; E, effort; A, aspirations; C, cognition; and 5, this is also important. What do you guys think the H stands for? What do you think the H stands for? It kind of goes along with hmm, effort, maybe. It kind of goes along with effort, but it starts with an H. It's not effort. So if you're going to motivate a student through social or socio and factors, emotional factors, what is a factor that starts with an H that you think we need to possess to motivate a student? That you just have to have it. You have to have it. Let me say this. It starts with this. I can't give you a bigger hint than what I just gave you. Okay. It starts here. It starts here. So, what is the thing that you have to have? Starts with an H, that is a factor, a socio emotional factor to motivate students. And I've said this so many ways, and I think somebody just got it. And I gave you a clue, but I think you would have gotten it without the clue. So thanks so much. And the person who got it is Dr. Triplet. And Dr. Triplet says, if you really want to motivate a student who lacks motivation, you have to have heart. You have to have heart. It starts with your heart. And next week, we're going to talk about the heart. Because as an educator, even as a parent, if you're going to forgive children for making mistakes, if you're going to forgive children for not being motivated, if you're really, really going to tackle some of the deepest issues that aren't in textbooks, that aren't in their student records, if they're not in their profiles, you have to have the heart, because your heart will allow you to navigate through the tough and challenging times, and it will keep you focused on what's important. It's not about if the kid is being disrespectful, because you have the heart. I can correct that. I can fix the mistakes to expand the possibilities, right? I can work on the conduct. I can work on the disrespect. I can work on tardiness. I can work on absenteeism. I can deal a lot with students, but all of that will never happen if you don't have the heart. You have to have the heart for students. And so if you see a student, and we're talking about social and emotional, that's going through a situation, somebody dropped the word empathy. If you don't care, you're not going to put forth the effort to even ask them, is everything okay today? I've noticed you just seem a little different. You seem quiet today. You're normally more talkative. You're normally more interactive. You're normally more joyful. You normally do your work. Those questions. Those are hard questions. Those questions, you're not going to find those kind of questions in the standards, right? You're not going to find those kind of questions in the learning targets. Hard questions aren't part of the instructional framework. There is no frame for the heart. The heart frames everything else. Tweet that. There is no frame for the heart. The heart frames everything else. It frames everything that you do. It frames all of your beliefs, your practices. Your heart frames how you judge people. And in this instance, for what we're talking about, your heart dictates how you motivate students and the way that you go about doing it. So sometimes your students aren't motivated and you can't get them motivated because you don't come with the right heart. You got a heart issue and you have to fix your heart. Now let's broaden this out, because it's not just about the teacher. For some principals, your students are out of control. Why? Because you have a heart issue. They don't think you care about them at all because you're so operational or you're so driven by compliance. When's the last time you showed your heart? We've got some great comments in here, and I do want to share those. Dr. Drummer, I see you in here. Ms. Jackson says, anything you do, you need to always put your heart into it. Dr. Drummer says, and those questions allow students to know that you have actually been observing them over time and have formed an understanding. You have formed an understanding of their individual personality. The heart. The heart, people. How well do you know students? When's the last time you talked to a student? When's the last time you said, I'm so excited that you're in class? When's the last time you said, I'm so proud of you for showing up? When's the last time you said, thank you for answering that question today? I really appreciate you for participating. When's the last time you simply said, you look nice today? Again, those aren't curriculum expectations, right? Those are openings and closings. Things of the heart start before the opening and they occur after the closing. And they're interweaved throughout everything else you do during that class, during your direct instruction, as students are practicing and working, and your monitoring, and your feedback. I'm always leading with my heart, because my heart guides not only my mind, it also guides my mouth. And it's able to allow me to filter what I hear. It's the heart. It's what keeps you alive. It's what keeps your students pumping, thriving, beating through these academic streets. because they're motivated. Why? Because you have relationships, you've put forth the effort, you've given them aspirations to believe that they can accomplish some things in life. You've challenged them cognitively that their minds, their brains are more than enough. And number 5, all of that you framed with the heart. Miss Jackson says, so true, so true. And Drummer says, words of affirmation go a long way. They go a long way. And sometimes words of destruction cannot be repaired. Be careful how you put your mouth on people. And get your mind out the gutter. Get your mind. Some of y'all need prayer. Some of y'all need, you know what? Some of y'all sick. Just sick. Okay. I said it. You're sick. You're sick. Dr. Drummond says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Now, are you trying to give me a word tonight? Are we going there? Are we going there? Are we going there? I want to get this in here. Dr. Triplet has dropped a comment in here. I want to make sure I recognize my brother for the things that he's contributing to this conversation. You guys were quiet in the beginning. Now you really want to have some things to say. Now that we're wrapping up, you must know I'm wrapping up, right? Now you want to say, okay, at least I did comment. I hope you guys are have subscribed to the channel on YouTube. If you haven't, you need to go ahead and do that now. Like, share, subscribe. So Brother Triplet says, when is the last time you said I love you? Wow. He says it daily. Some may never hear it from anyone. So true. And let me say this. If you don't mean it, don't say it. There's so many things you can say without having to say I love you if it's not coming from your it has to come from here, because a pitiful I love you is one you can keep and put it in your pocket. Nobody wants an old sorry, lazy, non-meaningful I love you. Nobody. Because if they never hear it and it's a pitiful one, it's like they still haven't heard it. They didn't hear it. So listen, guys, it's 49 minutes we've been on. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in, watching, commenting, being involved. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Your difference or your attendance here makes a difference. It makes what I do so meaningful. Again, this is free. I'm not charging for this, but I really want to do my part in helping to make a difference. Guess what? You guys have entered into Teacher Talks. Class is over. We have done our closing. We are wrapping up. Again, I appreciate you for being here. Now, next week, we have a special guest. We are talking about leadership. And if you are a leader, if you aspire to lead, you want to watch this show. And the topic of that show is going to be loving to learn, learning and leading by serving. Let me say it again. Loving to learn. If you're a leader, you have to be a lover of learning, right? You have to be a lover, a believer in education. And then too, you have to learn and lead. You're not perfect. You should be growing, even as a leader. You don't know everything. Be involved in knowing about how to support instruction and enhance your own capacity. And then number 3, lead by serving. The type of leader that we had in existence years ago no longer exists. That leader is gone. So I want you to make sure you join in next week. Tune in. You'll see the promo that'll be going out next week, starting on Monday. But come back, make sure you tell somebody about Teacher Talks. I really appreciate you guys joining in, and I'll see you next week. But until then, like I always say, stay safe and be blessed.